We are beginning this series on integrity. Integrity is a part of the Step 5 principle, and Step 5 is admitted to God, to ourselves, and another human being, the exact nature of our wrongs. It's interesting that we pair confessing our wrongs with integrity, but I know it fits. It does. Integrity is the quality of being honest and having strong moral principles, moral uprightness. And the second definition offered, I really like, and here it is, the state of being whole and undivided. When I think of recovery as a process of becoming whole and undivided again. I know when I was using, I compartmentalized. My private life was nothing like my public life until my private life bled into my public life, and I was, arrested for public intoxication. So then my private life wasn't like my public life. It was all just a big mess. But the idea of bringing the wreckage of my addiction into recovery and through the 12 steps, becoming whole and undivided, reassembling of my family, reassembling of the conscience, the things in my conscience that kept me from really living in peace. The becoming whole again is a part of the word salvation. Salvation is salve. It's that word of being brought back into wholeness as we were created in the image and in the likeness of God. So, for the purpose of this message, this little homily preparation for communion, I want you to know that this Psalm 101 that we heard from, that's on the screen now, was actually like David. It was a king, King David. And this was a bit like if he had a platform, say, here is how I'm going to govern. This is how I'm going to establish Israel. I'm going to be Israel's king. And as king, David says these words, I will sing of your love and justice, Lord. I will praise you with songs. I will be careful to live a blameless life. When will you come to help me? I will lead a life of integrity in my own home. I will refuse to look at anything vile and vulgar. I hate all who deal crookedly. I will have nothing to do with them. I will reject perverse ideas and stay away from every evil. How about that for a political platform? But there you have it. That's King David's pledge to his people and to God as a godly leader. And so I want to just take a bit, just to walk us through that psalm and do it as a way of taking our own inventory. Because part of Step 4 leading into Step 5 is this process of examining our lives, holding our lives up to the presence of God, to the principles of recovery, the principles of moral rightness, and examining our life. And we can do that as a way to prepare for communion, to receive God's grace. So the first line of that psalm is, Lord, I am singing of your love and justice. Lord, is my life a living expression of your love? Is my life about justice, treating people fairly? Is how I live my life, how I sing my life, reflective of your love and your justice? He says flatly, I'm going to praise you with song. And boy, I thought it was so great to start worship. And did you feel the change when you started singing those words and hearing the music? It's like, it just does my heart good to praise and sing God's glory. We're told in the Bible that we're meant to do that. God created us to actually worship. And so when we worship, we are living into how we are created. And this idea of, I remember driving into North Minneapolis with a friend from Teen Challenge, and he and I were terrible singers. But we were screaming a praise song into the windshield as we were driving on our way. And it was just I just remember that. What a great experience. So Melissa hugs a pillow and cries and trusts it's Jesus. Some of you sing. Some of you sing. I remember I got a job doing painting a yoga studio. And I don't know what went on in that building, but I had to come after hours, paint into the night. And there were times when, honest to God, I would feel a bad spirit in there. And I'm all alone. And I just start singing songs I knew, Christian songs, just to kind of sing at whatever that was. Because I had to finish the job, I couldn't leave. And so, but I felt my soul encouraged as I sung those words to the Lord. I will be careful to live a blameless life. So the question is my life, if held up before you, God, acceptable in your sight? Is there anything within me about my behavior that needs to be changed? And then this next line, out of nowhere, when will you come and help me? Thank God that's in there, isn't it? Because as Melissa pointed out, alcohol, cunning, baffling, powerful. What's the next line? Without help, it's too much for us. Same with righteousness. On our own, we're not going to be able to be righteous. When I try to be righteous on my own, you know what happens to me? I become super rigid and not very fun to be around, and terribly controlling. But living into the grace, saying, God, help me. Just remembering that it's not our righteousness. It's the righteousness of God that comes through faith. So before we get all careful about being super perfect, we pause and we go, God, I can't do this. You got to help me. And that's the fun part, is to live in that grace and the power that is not ours, but God's. So I will lead a life of integrity in my own home. Isn't that important? And the big book says this about that in The Family Afterward. The family must realize that dad or mom, though marvelously improved, is still convalescing. They should be thankful he is sober and able to be of this world once more. Let them praise his progress. Let them remember that his drinking wrought all kinds of damage that may take long to repair. If they sense these things, they will not take so seriously his periods of crankiness, depression, or apathy, which will disappear when there is tolerance, love, and spiritual understanding. Then they go on to say the head of the house ought to remember that he is mainly to blame for what befell his home. He can scarcely square the account in this lifetime, but he must see the danger of over-concentration on financial success. Although financial recovery is on the way for many of us, we found we could not place money first. For us, material well-being always followed spiritual progress. It never preceded. Since the home has suffered more than anything else, it is well that a man exert himself there. He is not likely to get far in any direction if he fails to show unselfishness and love under his own roof. We know there are difficult wives and families, but the man who is getting over alcoholism must remember he did much to make them so. No kidding. So, really important to live a life of integrity in our own homes. I will refuse to look at anything vile and vulgar. Isn't that interesting? This was before the internet and all those, but it's important to invite God into this area of our lives. What am I looking at? And what is that doing to my soul, my relationship with God, my relationship with others? Pornography is a common struggle among those in recovery. It's also really, they know in statistics that it's common in Christian churches, primarily in men. But I want us to think also about what happens with social media in general. We live, as you know, in a divided country. And it depends on what side you're on, but you can find plenty of fodder to hate the other side by watching this particular TV station versus that one. And the big book, or the 12 and 12, has this to say about that. Should his own image in the mirror be too awful to contemplate, and it usually is, he might first look at the results normal people are getting from self-sufficiency. This was written in like 1945. Everywhere he sees people filled with anger and fear, society breaking up into warring fragments. Each fragment says to the others, "We are right and you are wrong." Every such pressure group, if it is strong enough, self-righteously imposes its will upon the rest. And everywhere the same thing is being done on an individual basis. The sum of all this mighty effort is less peace and less brotherhood than before. The philosophy of self-sufficiency is not paying off. Plainly enough, it is a bone-crushing juggernaut whose final achievement is ruin. Where is that getting us as a nation? Where is that getting us as a Christian community? And I think of looking at things that are vile or vulgar. For me, it's entertaining that polemic. I'm a guy who grew up with an alcoholic father. I like crisis. I like tension. I like all that uneasiness. And for me to go there is a way to kind of enter into that again. And I know it's not good for my soul. And so I am just saying that's something we can look at. David writes, "I hate all who deal crookedly. I will have nothing to do with them." So I can ask myself, God, who am I hanging around? Am I keeping good company? Am I being honest, sincere, living a life of integrity? Or am I hanging around others hoping to get what is a little vicarious charge from their stories or, the chaos, the criminal behavior? I will reject perverse ideas and stay away from every evil. We'll be praying that later on. God, spare me from temptation or deliver me from it. And we pledge to stay away from evil. And for us in recovery, we knew that. I knew that life. I know what it means to live in the darkness, to side with the wrong side. And I need to be careful in my thought life, in my behavior, in that kind of thing, to openly reject evil, to call on the name of the Lord, to save me and to protect me from evil, as we'll be praying in a bit. So remember, God knows us and seeks to help us. God wants to eliminate those things in us that block him from his sunlight, from living freely, from living a holy and integral life.